I want to congratulate you and We the World on the 20th anniversary of 11 days of global unity. Together, you, me, and we can create a better world and have fun doing it.
Thank you, Dr. Jane Goodell, for helping We the World and all our partners to celebrate over 20 years of 11 days of global unity. And thank you for joining us for the 11 day for joining us. Welcome to the 11 Days of Global Unity Summit. My name is Birgit Ben-Eli, and I'm the Director of Strategic Engagement and International Outreach for We the World. Today, I'm excited that we will be joined by Kurt Johnson, Roger Briggs, and Saida Zinat Karim, who will be talking about freedom, the ninth theme of the 11 Days of Global Unity. For the 11 days summit schedule, you can register for free by going to 11daysofglobalunity.org. 11 is a numeral and 11daysofglobalunity.org. There you can see all the 11 days summit broadcast. And at we.net, you can take action with the 11 campaigns for change, subscribe to Trans Magazine, and you can make a contribution to support all this work by going to we.net/donate. Thank you so much. Before we bring on our extraordinary speakers, I want to acknowledge some of our amazing partners who we support and collaborate with during 11 Days of Global Unity and all year round. The UN International Day of Peace NGO Committee, Peace Day Philly, the Unite for Peace Coalition, which includes Unity Earth, the Sign Network, One World, Hubcast Media, The Awakening World, We the World, Evolutionary Leaders Synergy Circles, the Deep and Rapid Transformation Convergence, also Climate Week, Pause the World in Times Square, and Pace e Bene Nonviolence Campaign. What an amazing movement representing literally millions of people working to achieve global unity, all working with We the World and the We campaign at we.net. Now let's bring in our host, Rick Olphig. Rick, welcome, Rick. Rick Olphig is the founder of We the World at we.net and the co-creator of 11 Days of Global Unity. Welcome to the broadcast, Rick Olphig.
Thank you, Birgit, and thank you all so much for joining us. Today, our 11 days theme is freedom, and in particular, how media affects democracy in the USA and globally. Messages in the media become the fabric of our collective culture. However, this can pose a danger when some leaders use disinformation, conspiracy theories, fear, and hate speech to gain and hold on to power, especially when the result is to expand a culture of intolerance and polarization. This erodes our ability to come together as a unified society to properly address our greatest challenges like climate disruption, poverty and inequality, war, and the functioning of our democracy in the USA in particular, which affects the whole world. So let's hear from our first guest.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce Kurt Johnson. Dr. Kurt Johnson brings expertise from both science and comparative religion, with a long professional career in both, and as a co-founder of the Light on Light Press, with its 8 Nautilus Award-winning books and the award for Best in Small Press from Nautilus in 2024.
I and we are so excited to hear from you to speak about the mission that you are on, the current dangers to freedom and democracy in the USA, and the work that you are doing, especially in media. Welcome to the broadcast, Dr. Kurt Johnson.
Yeah, Rick, thanks so much. And this question of freedom and its relationship to media is really important. So what I want to start off with is saying that the Light on Light Press and media specializes in books, magazines, and videos that are about positive messaging and the urgently needed paradigm shift to partnership systems and partnership cultures, and a people and planet friendly culture that are so desperately needed on a planet that is based more today on domination consciousness and domination cultures that are so prevalent across our business, economics, politics, and so much more. And we're really so pleased at Light on Light at what we've been able to contribute in the last few years with 8 Nautilus Awards, and then in 2024, the award for Best in Small Press. Now, this question of freedom and the relationship to media is really urgent and important. And when we consult historians and scholars today and don't just listen to self-serving politicians, we find ourselves being warned strongly about the erosions that are going on in so many places with regards to freedoms of all kinds. And this is especially true in the United States, where our heritage of democracy seems to be disappearing into an unwise and naive descent toward authoritarianism ruled by rich oligarchs, and also a returning to social normalizing of ranking systems like male over female and white over non-white, and many more. Now, what arises in this discussion regarding media is this question of the relationship of freedom and information. Now, we all know that in the last years, we've seen this movement away from print media, which is a more reflective media, then primarily moving then to screen media. And as Rick said, this has created an era in which misinformation, disinformation, and conspiracy theories of all kinds are becoming more and more dominant. It's hard today, as you know, to know what is actually true and to trust and who to trust regarding information, especially when in an era where politicians seem to lie not just part of the time, but some of them seem to be lying all of the time. And depending on where you go and where you listen for your information, you can end up getting completely different views of reality itself. And actually last year, there was a panel of 100 sociologists that declared that this problem globally was moving toward an evolutionary catastrophe. And what evolutionary catastrophe means in science, and that's my field, my doctorate's in evolutionary biology, is that when something so upsets the norm that you have no idea how you would get back to a new normal and what that looks like. A lot like when the meteor hit the earth and wiped out the dinosaurs, or when the bowling ball hits all the bowling pins and scatters them all over the place. It's going to be very difficult for our planet to make decisions about a constructive future if we actually don't know what is factual and what is true. So this problem with information and what is actually true has become a major problem today worldwide. And even more so in the United States, where we rank 27th in the world in the education level of our general populace. And this is what has led to people believing just anything that they may be told or what they might happen to read on the internet. And this deterioration has actually surprised many people in how fast it's come upon us. Now, this is not to be overly negative, and it's certainly not to just disparage one country. It's just that this seems to be the direction that so much of the world has been going, again, as Rick said, and also because so many people in high places have learned how to exploit it even further by using division, hate, and so on. And this is such a paradox because if you actually interview people around the world, and this has been done, you find out that 99.99% of people in the world, what they're really asking for is just a safe place in which they can pursue life, liberty, and happiness. So in this crazy era, we have a real responsibility with regard to media and with regard to messaging. And this is to balance being realistic about these negative directions that we see happening, but to continue to be really aggressive in our direction toward positive and inspiring messaging about a values-based and caring world that we all want to see. And to create, as many of us are, and this includes we.net and 11 Days of Global Unity and all of us who've gathered here, who are working to create media collaboratives and media collectives that are for a positive and inspiring media message that speaks to the deepest values that we all share. We have such a paradox on the planet right now. We could look out and we know that if everyone on this planet was able to share in a world of compassion and kindness and mutuality and co-creation, this planet could be a paradise. And I think we have to really hope that what we know is at the base of all people, the better angels that are in all of us, and this urge toward what is good, which is common to all people, that can actually rise to the fore, and particularly rise to the fore in the stories that are being told worldwide across cultures and through our media. So that's why we're so pleased to be here and be a part of this discussion. You can find Light on Light at lightonlight.us. And I particularly point you there because you'll find that not only do we have our regular publications, but we have over 20 free e-magazines that are on all of these messages about positive global change. And you can find those at issuu.com/lightonlight or at the website under publications. So enjoy all of that fantastic material. We've been a part of also contributing to we.net's Trends magazine. And let's hope for that better world that we all want to see. And I'm really looking forward to what our other guests have to say. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kurt. And let's now hear from Roger Briggs. Birgit?
Yes, it is my pleasure to introduce Roger Briggs. Roger wrote the book Emerging World and founded and grew a local nonprofit for public and land stewardship. In 2021, he co-founded the Planet Project and works at the global level serving the great transition to a regenerative civilization and partnership culture.
Thank you. And yes, Roger, we are thrilled to hear from you to speak about the mission that you are on, how media influences democracy, and the crucial importance of conscious media. Maybe you can talk about that as a concept, right? Especially at this difficult time in our collective history. So, welcome to the broadcast, Roger Briggs.
Thank you, Rick. Great to be here. As we think about freedom and democracy related to the media, the whole idea of voting in a democracy assumes that people have good information, that they can make good decisions. And today, almost everyone is in sort of an information crisis, not only overload, but what can you believe? So it's really not possible for democracy to function in the current media environment. My personal belief is that the 2024 election in the US the outcome was determined in media. It wasn't about policy or candidates, or it was all about what was spun in the media. And it's, a very powerful thing. So I think we do have a crisis. It's greater than just political freedom and democracy, however. I think that we really need to think about freedom in a much larger context. And, freedom is really the birthright of all humans. We'd hope to be free, but in reality, the whole program of civilization, which is a 5,000-year-old thing, was essentially designed to take away the freedom of most people, to have these ranking systems, these hierarchical societies, with someone in charge at the top, an authority figure, probably with armed military enforcing their wishes. And at the bottom was slaves building the pyramids, but everyone else has to have their place in this ranking system. This is spelled out so beautifully by Riane Eisler, and I'm a great fan of Riane's work. She calls this the domination culture, and it's been with us for 5,000 years. And so the intention has never been for humanity to be free, to be making their own choices and to have agency. So I hate to sound too dark about that, but we need to face what is, and it's really the same now. It's not just the powerful leaders, though. I think we need to think about cultural freedom and the effects of media culturally, and the consumer culture, for example, where people are fed all this information playing on our weaknesses and insecurities. We'd like to be more beautiful and more popular. So you need to buy these products. And all the conditioning we get, perhaps at home, depending on how we're raised, or in schools about what you're supposed to be, what kind of a path you're supposed to follow. And so this was all talked about a lot by Krishnamurti, the great teacher. He called it conditioning, and he spent a lot of time talking about all the conditioning that we have. And so conditioning is the opposite of freedom. Um, so, what's the way out of this? All of us, I think, here have this dream of a better world in which people are not enslaved by either, political authorities or by media or anything else. Um, so I've concluded that the answer, the only thing we really can do is to use the media. It's the most powerful thing on the planet right now, really, and use it for positive purposes. Use it to liberate people, to help them to think for themselves, to give them good information. So in the work that I'm involved with, and I'm partnered with Kurt and some other really amazing people, is to really try to create a media ecosystem for conscious media. And let me just share a graphic that is sort of captures this idea of conscious media, and that's sort of not all media is the same. Rather like food, we know there's healthier food and less healthy food, and we need to make good choices about that. So the media spectrum is just an idea we're introducing. It's not a strict, number axis like you see here, but it's more just to be aware that, media falls in different places, and everything to the right of the zero there is really where we should be. We should never have anything that's deceptive and manipulative and exploitive. So my dream is that someday that just won't even be a consideration. But for now, we just need to start producing media that's healthy. That would be another name for conscious media, healthy media, or media that brings well-being. And in fact, there's lots of it being produced right now. It's just not having a big impact on the mainstream populations. So we are. I have a puppy dog speaking to me. We are involved in trying to create what we call a conscious media ecosystem, and to try to get all of the many great media creators in the organizations in our space and across the planet. There's really a lot of it being produced, but it's all being produced in isolation. So we're trying to create what I like to call a resonant ecosystem where we can be coordinated and have messaging that's designed to reach the mainstream, that's not too intellectual, it's not, for different audiences to have different kinds of messaging, and to just really bathe humanity in the new stories of people that can live together in partnership, in loving, in cooperation, and where people can be free. That's really what we don't want to be like someone else, or follow some program that's laid out for us. Freedom really means, moving into our full agency and really bringing our own unique gifts to the world. So that's kind of my take on freedom. I think it is the most important thing. I think it's very related to truth. You can't really have freedom without access to truth. and creativity, one of our great birthrights, really comes out of freedom. So I think I'll leave it at that, and love to hear what Saida has to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Roger Briggs.
It is my pleasure now to introduce Saida Zinat Karim. Saida Zinat Karim has a Master's of International Development Practice at Monash University of Australia. She's an independent researcher working on environment, climate change, and gender. She has worked with a variety of international and non-governmental organizations. And she was a speaker at a consultation workshop on Bangladesh broadband policy.
So now we are excited to hear from you to speak about. Yes, you're welcome. So we want to hear about your work and what you're passionate about. Also, I would be interested to hear about how you perceive the media environment in the USA, since you're in Bangladesh, so you have maybe a different perspective on what's happening in the USA that is doing all these things that we heard from Kurt and Roger about. So in the US, we have the mainstream commercial media, independent media, and social media. So the idea is, what do you think about how they are influencing democracy? And I would be interested also to hear how you would compare US media with the media environment in Bangladesh. So welcome to the broadcast, Saida Zinat Karim.
Thank you again, Rick, for inviting me to join this discussion. So I come from Bangladesh. I'm rooted in Bangladesh, and my experience and context where I'm going to speak, that will kind of present my opinion and views from Bangladesh. So to give a little bit of context about Bangladesh, we are a developing country. We've been doing pretty well since we got our independence in 1971. It was a bloody war, and we won in that war. So our independence began from that time. So in the past 54 years, we did pretty well. And the trajectory is still upward, I would say. I would kind of like to hold a positive view towards my own nation. So yeah. It was a very interesting discussion that I've been hearing from the respected colleagues who have joined this discussion. So I basically work in Bangladesh, where I work in the arena of program implementation, social development, communication, cross-cutting issues, gender for my kind of work. And I mostly work in the ING, or non-governmental organization, where we kind of try to work through applying MSD, market system development approach. So I have been an independent consultant before, but now I'm working with an international organization. But here, where I'm going to speak, it's from my personal work experience. I'm not representing any organization. Everything is my personal view. Just a disclaimer. So anyway, getting back to the question that Rick asked. So how do I perceive USA, media of USA? So to me, when we look at the United States, I can see the media landscape is pretty vast and influential. It doesn't only remain in USA, especially for developing countries. What USA kind of portrays in their media, we also get effects of that, be it the policy or be it our political landscape. So in USA, mainstream networks, cable television, independent outlets, and a fast-moving digital ecosystem all together are working, under an umbrella and kind of setting a public discourse out of it. But from what I see, that media also kind of stands at this stage. It's kind of fragmentation of news and sort of polarization as well. So kind of going towards sensational news, where kind of people get ignites out of emotion rather than getting ignited by fact checks or by credible sources. So that is one thing. And also, I would say that I think that citizens in USA, they might find themselves in echo chambers with algorithms, only what they kind of want to hear, kind of confirmation bias. So they're not getting a 360-degree holistic view of a news piece. So this kind of context actually deepens polarization, that also erodes trust of people in the government institutions, and which ultimately kind of weakens democracy. And nonetheless, we have to add the kind of vast commercial pressurization that media outlets have, and sort of how all the clickbaits and sensational newses are designed, where it will generate more clout and clicks on that particular news piece. Which is just a headline, which could be a sensational headline, which will only generate some views and clicks, rather than making people think that, okay, what I am actually reading, do I have to cross-check this news with other 3 or 4 outlets? So that's one thing. And yeah, so if I also put the context of Bangladesh, if I kind of compare the context of media and democracy, I'm not sure if my respected colleagues, if you know that it's not been a while, it's just been a year that our government has been, the last government has been kind of toppled down. There was a huge unrest done by the people of Bangladesh, and those whole movement, political movement kind of, or people's movement, you could say, it's still debatable, that people kind of came out to the road together. And social media was very powerful in that particular scenario. It kind of conjoined people from different walks and paths. And so we have very fresh kind of example that how powerful media could be in today's world. At the same time, we also know that youth, especially when I'm a millennial, so while I was growing up, I didn't have many TV channels and many newspapers, lying around. And I didn't grow up with Facebook or, other internet outlets at that time. So we have very limited kind of access to news, some particular media houses, some TV channels, radio was there. So we kind of grew up, not with flooded out with information. Rather, we had kind of news where it kinds of come with fact checking, not out of emotion. Emotive news can only kind of generate crowd and or clout, but news, actual news, which is sometimes actually boring because it's always gives you facts on how, where, why, what, when. So it particularly might not come as sensational for people to read. So that's one thing. So so if I now say that, if I compare that, definitely I would say the USA probably have more freedom of speech while it comes to media agency than probably from ours, because here media is most of the time it's controlled. It kind of echoes or tells the story what for the people who are actually holding the power or in the state of power, rather than voicing what actually is happening or upholding the voices of youth. But as the Gen Zs and millennials, they're today in much more connected with internet. We kind of in Bangladesh, we kind of look for sources in Facebook rather than newspaper, because Facebook comes really easy. You're scrolling, you're like at work, you are even having dinner or lunch in your family, with your family. You can just take your phone. If you're bored, you're just opening Facebook or things like that, or Instagram or things like that maybe, and you're just going through the news, and in some sensational sensational news. You see, like-minded people are gathering, discussion is sparkling, but this also leads to a lot of mob violence, which we've been seeing in Bangladesh in the past few months. So media can be a really powerful tool to make people come together rather than from that polarization part. And at the same time, it can be really, really evil that we can, around the world, we can actually see this kind of examples is now everywhere, that how media can paint someone in some color, which is not even true, but it's kind of popular opinion. So it's being upheld by different media outlets. So yeah, that's that.
Okay. So thank you for that overview. It's very much appreciated. And
Thank you.
Why don't we move to having a roundtable? So let's invite everybody here. So the idea is, if there are any questions that anybody has, and the big focus that I want to get to is, can we have a call to action? So I'm going to talk about that a bit, but then feel free to ask any questions. But in terms of the call to action, we are promoting the hashtag urgency for action. That's urgency, the word, the number 4, and then the word action. So hashtag urgency for action. We're using that in all our activities. What are you calling for? And how would each of you like to take action or ask people to take action? And then you can also ask any questions of any of the other speakers. So let's start with Kurt.
Yeah, absolutely. So I found actually Saida's presentation really interesting, because I think what it points to is the diversity of the landscape that we're dealing with when we're talking about a call to action. Because as Roger said, we're involved with a lot of folks from across North America, Europe, Latin America, and to a degree, of course, Africa, Australia, and other places, in creating these collaboratives and collectives toward a media that's both positive and inspiring and values-based, but also discerning with regard to fact. And what I found interesting in what Saida was reporting, that the world is not a uniform landscape in that sense, that the call to action in the sense of what a media collective looks like and what its goals would be varies very differently by the situation of press freedom or just basically freedom of thought in any particular country. And certainly, Bangladesh, India, areas of the India subcontinent have, quite better degrees of press freedom and democratic freedom for all kinds than, let's say, China or what used to be the Soviet Union and is now as bad as modern Russia. So that landscape brings a challenge to what this call to action looks like. And that's why I found what Saida reported to be really interesting relative to what we have to consider when we're talking about media collectives and media collaboratories.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. And anybody else want to say? Well, we can go to Roger. Do you want to make any comments? And by the way, Kurt, did you have a call to action that you wanted to focus on?
Yeah, my call to action is really the one that we're already involved with and you're involved with too. And this is this development of this media ecosystem that's trying to balance these negative and self-serving or power-serving groups, and to actually be a voice for what we generally call the transformative community, or the conscious community, that's about all things with regard to values, caring, sharing, kindness, compassion, all the values of the great wisdom traditions, the humanist traditions, and all the great philosophical traditions. And really that speaks to what Saida said about appealing to that emotion as opposed to the emotion for divisiveness and conflict.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kurt. And Roger, did you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I guess I want to just say that I think the biggest problem that we have is actually the media. And a lot of people will say, well, climate change is the thing that's really, the alarms are going off, and young people seem very concerned about that. But, we can't even address climate change if people are bathed in misinformation. So we can't even touch any of those other problems if we have this disinformation going on, this confusion and deception. So I guess I would like to raise the awareness that it is media that we need to be talking about, everybody. And the call to action, one, I think, is for people to look at their own media use and to become aware of that discernment of the quality of media and where is it on that spectrum. It's a simple idea, but and how is it affecting me and how am I using it, and to really be reflective. I mean, I'm not hopeful that we can just pass laws and make people do the right thing. That's really not the world I want. People have to awaken into their own freedom to choose and become discriminating about media. So partly, I mean, my work I'm trying to do is to just raise the awareness that the answer to almost everything comes back to reaching people through media and giving them not only good information, but a new story of what humanity can be. And the other thing, the other call to action, to piggyback on Kurt, because it's the work we're doing, is hope and pray that we can make some progress creating this large scale media ecosystem that can really start to put at a very large scale into mainstream audiences across the planet the positive messages, the truthful messages, the inspiring messages that really enable people to become the new humanity. I mean, that is our dream, that there is a new earth and a new humanity that awaits us. But right now, I think media is really our only hope, maybe our last hope. So my question for Saida is how are you viewing things? And as you call yourself a millennial, and are you optimistic at all, or what do you think is our hope? What do we need to do? So
Yeah, thank you.
Interestingly, thank you, thank you both of you, Cart and Roger. You both bring a very strong perspective from your side, and from my side, and I absolutely echo with both of you. And I kind of just want to add to what you already said. So for millennials, the information kind of that comes to us, that kind of we are flooded with information. So for us, the first thing, the call for action for us would be the media literacy. Like from the school, we need to teach kids or children how to fact check. Like they shouldn't be only the consumer of news, rather, being the, change maker. They would figure out what news we should be consumed as a community, as a collective nation, or what news needs to be discarded. We have to make them understand that who are playing the news behind the newsroom. Is the editorial opinion, are they really independent, as they call themselves as independent, or they're kind of echoing someone else's views and asking us to believe in what we should not actually believe, and shaping our opinion towards democracy? Because when I'm thinking in that way, we are kind of, I am not using my agency of my own thoughts. And it's so easy, to believe in whatever is coming on my screen all the time. But then I also have to learn, the school needs to teach that somehow, that constantly, that in the time of AI, how we need to differentiate among the thousands and millions of news, and what kind of news bites needs to be consumed and needs to be discarded, and not generate clouds or snowball the news kind of thing. Because in developing countries like us, it kind of generate mob or real life, real-time violence at seconds. And in the presence of right wing is emerging, it's very easy to persecute the already kind of the group, transaction group, like the women, and the minority group of different aspects and community. So all these things are, together making a country, stands at where they stand. So for me, the call for action absolutely would be media literacy and using the power of youth, the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, who would be emerging in the next 10, 15 years. So yes.
Yeah, one
that's
thing that I wanted to bring into the
yeah.
conversation, because we've all brought up Rihanna Eisler, and this is where she's so insightful, is that if you look worldwide, people in many ways are talking about the same values. They're talking about the same values that we're talking about, but tend to only put it into the perspective of the ranking system of their culture. So the values are similar. That's why you can interview those 99.9% of people who want the same thing. But if it's then put into a ranking system very strictly by culture, then it turns out to be very different. And as she points out, this really comes from where people find safety. Do they find safety in unity, or do they find safety in division? And so much of our world still finds safety in dividing into the groups where people look like them, talk like them, think like them, and that is simply not sustainable. So I think, as Saida said, again, at this global level, and Roger said this as well, we're going to have to show what it means that safety and fact and truth can actually be the place that is in a unity and diversity, and not by the dividing out where you feel safe just within your own group.
Yeah, definitely. And I also wanted to add to what you were saying about media literacy, Saida. It's something that I've been interested in and part of for decades. And I guess one way to sum that up is be the media. That's one way to think of it, right? For all of us, and especially young people, be the media. So, Birgit, do you have a call to action?
I have a call to action. I have plenty to say because all three of our speakers spoke my mind or from my mind. And I agree. I mean, it was always the same coming up as truth and trust. And we all live in our echo chambers, whether we have the freedom of speech or we don't have the freedom of speech. And we align ourselves with what we identify most with without questioning. So I agree with Saida. One thing we have to do in our educational system is to teach critical thinking and questioning what we are exposed to, because our media, we know, as you all mentioned, creates or shapes the fabric of our collective culture wherever we see ourselves aligned with. And media works with emotions, or addresses emotion, appeals to emotions and sensation instead of truth that was mentioned here a few times. So my call to action would be the same emotional power that divides us. Let's use that to heal and inspire connection and compassion, collaboration, demand truth, and invite to a genuine dialogue and deliberation. So in order to create a better culture, and I think in that sense, I loved Roger's graphic, how we have to shift into a positive direction to create that we're all in this together, where there's shared humanity. It doesn't matter where we come from, what we believe. We have to find a common path that works for all of us. Whether within this common path we agree or disagree, it has to be on a healthy level, it has to be in a form of dialogue and discourse in order to find the common path. Thank you.
Thank you, Birgit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my call to action. Actually, my call to action is everybody's call to action on this call. But I have a very specific call to action, and it's called the We Power campaign. It's about the power of we, all of us together, actually millions of us coming together to transform our society so it prioritizes the common good. To help us to launch the We Power campaign, you can go to we.net/We Power campaign. So thank you. Well, this has been a truly amazing conversation. Thank you, Dr. Kurt Johnson, Roger Briggs, Saina, Zinat, Karim. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you. And thank all of you for watching this and for being part of 11 days of global unity. To get involved, please go to we.net. So it's all about we, right? This is a W. So let's go from a me society, which is an M, to a we society. And that's why we launched we.net. So together we can create a world that works for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.